Before I get into the recent updates about the ceasefire, I just wanted to share a short article here. I mean, I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to give you the highlights from it. It was published by the New York Times, and Al-Quds Al-Arabi newspaper published some details about it too, talking about the details of the American meetings with Hamas and Israel's attempts to sabotage it and its ultimate failure. And this report, they're saying that the meetings between the United States and Hamas, initially Adam Bowler tried to have a small deal with Hamas, so you're talking about months ago, before he came to office. So Donald Trump coming in and saying that I already released an American, for example, in the case of Aidan Alexander. So Adam Bowler was negotiating with Hamas from a very long time ago. And that's the same man who said they were friendly and nice. This report is saying, oh no, they were sitting there drinking fresh orange juice and eating Knafeh. Eating Knafeh, for those of you who don't know Knafeh, a very nice Arabic dessert with like phyllo pastry and cheese and syrup and what have you, and with like crushed pistachios on top. So Hamas and the US officials are eating Knafeh together and juice past midnight, right? To stay awake. Knafeh and orange juice. That should be a title for something. US, Hamas, Knafeh and orange juice meeting. Interesting. Anyway, it shows you the level of meetings that were taking place between Hamas and the United States administration, who are, having all of these militant statements and all the typical propaganda, and behind closed doors they're sitting with Hamas. And now reports said that they had direct meetings with the Iranian foreign minister in Oman after all of this talk, and they met with him and they sat with him. But what's happening now? What is happening now? So Hamas, they're in Cairo. Khalil al-Hayya, who is, one of the most senior figures, he was the acting head of the political bureau, but now Hamas, they're deciding not to kind of declare a senior political bureau figure. But he is one of the main people leading the delegation. He was in Cairo. And when Hamas go to Cairo, that means there are developments. There were reports about a deal coming from Cairo as a bridge deal that would lead us to phase 2 and an ending of the war. So we're talking about something new. We're not talking about the previous formula. However, it includes many things that were included in the previous formula, such as the length. It's going to be a minimum of 40 to 50 days. Some reports said it can reach up to 70 days this time. Up to 8. Well, Israel's saying a minimum of 8. They initially wanted 11, but Israel's saying a minimum of 8 Israeli prisoners of war will be released alive, alongside some of those who are dead. Israel, in exchange, will be releasing approximately 2,000 Palestinians. Half of them will be with heavy sentences. And Israel will allow all aid in. It will allow medical equipment, all of the details like before. During this time, and they will not be released in one knock like Israel wants, because Israel wants them to be released in one knock without an exchange. You understand? So they want to take away the leverage from Hamas, or the strong cards, leave them with nothing, only for them to continue the genocide. And by the way, even if Hamas raise the white flag, and they won't, by the way, but even if they do, the genocide will continue. The genocide will continue regardless. They're using Hamas just as an excuse. Look at what they do in the West Bank and everywhere else. In other countries too. But Israel showed openness and willingness. The United States is saying that we are open. We're open, and reports said that they actually accepted it. They're fine with it. Well, they were fine with less than that up until Benjamin Netanyahu came and broke the ceasefire, and then they started to pretend like, oh no, we actually are with him and we support him and what have you. But then Hamas are also giving positive signs. There were reports that Israel gave a positive sign too, without many declarations inside of Israel. But so long as Hamas is in Cairo, this means that something is going on. Hamas are usually in Qatar. They negotiate from Qatar. But when they go to Cairo, or when the Israelis go to Cairo, let alone the Egyptians going to Israel, that means there are final details to be finished. So the Hamas delegation will be there, the Israeli delegation will be in the other room, the mediators will be going between them to finalize certain deals. Hamas will say, no, we're going to release 5, Israel will release 11, let's meet halfway. Parameter, where are you going to withdraw from? No, we're going to remain everywhere. Hamas is going to say, no, you're going to withdraw. All of that. And they, of course, the mediators try and bridge the situation. Now, is there a prospect of this succeeding? Yes, there is. However, the prospect of this succeeding does not mean the ending of the war, unfortunately, as hard as it is. Why? Because we don't have anything to establish any sort of hopefulness that this will be a very long-lasting ceasefire. But what we can look towards, or what we can expect, is this ceasefire or an additional ceasefire. It depends on how they actually phrase it and what they actually call it. Is it going to be phase 2? Is it not going to be phase 2? What is it going to be? It can be a bridge towards the end of the war. But the end of the war is seeming almost impossible with Benjamin Netanyahu in power. Of course, there's a problem with Israel in its entirety as a state. How it was established, how it conducted itself, the constant injustices, the constant problems. But even Israel, it wasn't like this all the time. Even in Israel, you had a bit more space to criticize. You had a little bit more freedom of speech in certain parts. You had, in the early 90s, people, hundreds of thousands were protesting for peace. You need to understand how this country that was established in a flawed manner, in essence, became the worst example of an already bad recipe. So Benjamin Netanyahu being there, having these people around him, having Smotrich and Ben Gvir and everyone pushing him, having these people who conduct rituals against their children, that's not something that we can be hopeful that will lead to some sort of a deal. So the end of the war, the prospect of a long-lasting deal rather than a very temporary ceasefire, is now definitely tied with Benjamin Netanyahu saying that. So long as Benjamin Netanyahu is in his position, it's almost impossible to reach a long-lasting ceasefire. We can reach a deal, we can reach a small deal, there will be breaches, we know all of that, but a long-lasting deal similar to the long-lasting deals that Israel had with Hamas previously, that is seeming impossible with the presence of Benjamin Netanyahu. If Benjamin Netanyahu remains in his place, we're talking about October 2026, the next elections, 1.5 more years of war. So this is what's going to happen. Unless people choose him again, by the way, we don't know what can happen. However, if Benjamin Netanyahu is taken down somehow, there would be a prospect of a long-lasting ceasefire. Because so far, what Benjamin Netanyahu is doing, he has been only moving, pivoting, delaying, canceling, adding more problems, just to suit his political interests, his narrow political interests, which is what the letter of those thousands of pilots of armed forces in the IDF, serving and reservists, are saying. The world is no longer about security. It's about narrow political interests. Soldiers are dying, innocent people are dying, and there is no security. Therefore, there's an inner revolution inside of the Israeli army. A split is happening. By the way, a split is happening, and that's evident now. Well, there were, of course, signs of that from the beginning, but that's becoming more and more obvious. It's making its way to the mainstream. And when something makes its way to the mainstream, this means that there is something very serious behind this.